Because I was wondering about that, because I was like, antifreeze actually tastes sweet. It doesn't taste bad. That's why people don't know that they're being poisoned with it.
Hi, I'm Lila,
And I'm Chansey.
and this is for Criming Out Loud.
Hello. Welcome to another week. This week we're going to do something, it's not that different from what we have been doing, but we want to try and talk about something a little bit happier than murder at the beginning. So we're going to talk about something weird instead. And
Yeah,
this week,
we gotta start high and end low, you know?
yeah, exactly. Just start
The way
off
to
on
do it.
a fun note and then slowly devolve.
Yeah, we'll just take all your hopes and dreams away throughout the
Yep.
episode. It'll be great.
So this week, my story that I want to share is about Wally Gator. I don't know if anybody who knows what that is.
I have
But
never heard of Wally Gator, but I don't
yeah,
exist on the internets, so I don't know.
yeah, me neither. Social media
Okay.
is not my thing. So, Wally Gator is the first emotional support alligator
Oh boy.
ever. He has like 145,000 TikTok followers.
What?
And yeah, he's like a big deal. Wally Gator. And his owner has had him for since he was like a wee little 18-month-old alligator. And he's now 8 years old. And this week, they were visiting friends in Georgia, Wally and his owner, and he had Wally in a cage in the backyard, and somebody kidnapped Wally.
Oh my gosh, what?
Yeah. Wally Gator got kidnapped in Georgia and then left in some random person's yard, and that random person didn't know that it was Wally Gator. They just thought it was an alligator. And so they called somebody to come take care of it, and that those people, they came and they took Wally Gator and they released him into the swamp.
Oh, bye.
So Wally Gator
Bye, Wally.
is gone.
You're not gonna survive very long out there.
That's what I said. He's been pampered his whole life. He doesn't know how to eat people.
I don't know how that's gonna work, but maybe instincts will kick in.
I don't know, but they've been searching for him all week, even though he was released with 20 other alligators into the swamp.
Oh boy.
So, anyways, and yeah, so Wally Gator's missing, and his owner's very sad, which it's an interesting thing. Alligators, I didn't know.
How I don't know. I'm imagining I had a best friend that was like, "Hey, I'm gonna come over, and by the way, yeah, I gotta bring my pet alligator." I don't know. I mean, I get that.
Yeah.
Obviously, he kept it in a cage, which tells you that it wasn't a very nice.
No,
animal.
It is nice. It is nice because he would go and visit nursing homes with it, and it likes hugs. It doesn't bite people.
Really?
He's the owner was he rehabilitates animals. That's what he does. And he's like, I have never seen an alligator that didn't bite people. And he's like, I've never been bitten by Wally. And he's had him for 8 years, and he's never bitten anybody else either.
Weird.
He wears a little red harness, and they just go on walks.
That's hilarious. I'm definitely gonna have to go look at video of that, because I definitely want to see a little alligator on a.
It's funny
on a leash.
But yeah, Wally Gator got kidnapped, and now he's in a swamp somewhere, and they're searching for him.
I don't think they're gonna find him.
I don't think they will either. The person that worked at I don't remember what it's called, but it's the organization that deals with rogue alligators, basically.
Animal control.
They released him. Yeah, but they didn't call it that. They called it DNR, but I don't remember what it stands for.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, they said that it was very unlikely that Wally would ever be found because there's 1 billion alligators in that swamp, apparently, and no way to distinguish which one's Wally. So, but that's not stopping his owner. His owner is out there every day with like 20 other people searching for Wally, and they're getting donations to
Oh my
help search
gosh.
for him.
Yeah.
They've already
I don't
got like
know.
$10,000 in donations. So,
Why do you need $10,000 to go search for? Okay, well that kind of throws me. I don't know why you need $10,000,
well, I don't know. I don't
but
think he asked for
I
$10,000. I
know.
think
But I'm just
random
saying,
people
like,
started a fund.
isn't it interesting that people are like dying and nobody will save them, and then a crocodile and alligator goes missing, and it's like, here's ten
All
thousand
hands on
dollars.
deck.
People
Yeah.
are wild.
Yeah. Yep. Super
Yeah,
wild.
no, that's crazy. I hope they find him, but
Yeah.
he's
So,
probably either happier out there or dead. So
yeah,
I
I
don't
just
know.
feel like an alligator that's been hand fed forever might
He's
not
not
do
gonna.
well in a
Yeah.
swamp. But also, alligators are very instinctual creatures, so maybe he'll be fine. I'm
Who
sure he will be.
knows?
Anyways, so there you go.
There
Now
it
you know the
is.
story of Wally Gator and his kidnapping.
Alligator. Go look it up if you don't already.
Yep.
Maybe we're just
He's
like
on
super
Facebook.
behind and everybody knows about Alligator. It's
I know,
probably what it
maybe.
is.
It's
People are like,
probably a
you
thing. I
are
don't know.
so dumb. This has been a thing for
Yep.
years. And I'm like, well,
There we
at
go.
least I found it
No,
eventually, right?
I found it.
It
That's
just
my
took
whole
him
life.
going missing. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. That's my story.
Yeah, that's awesome. And there's not like a transition here at all.
Yeah, I don't feel
I
like Wally
can't find
Gator
an alligator
transitions well.
transition into murder. So the case we're covering today is one that probably most of you have heard of. I actually like read the name when I was doing research trying to find a case, and I like initially didn't realize who it was, and then I started reading more about it and I was like, "Huh, we all know this story." Many of you have probably heard of the Antifreeze Killer, and that is who we're discussing today. That's the only intro I'm going to give because I don't want to ruin the whole story, but
I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what you're talking about.
really? I'm like kind of shocked by that because I'm pretty sure you know this story because you've told me about this case before.
I probably will know what it is once you start talking about it, but
You're
I'm
going to
like
know.
thinking of a specific case, but maybe I'm wrong.
No,
Maybe
you're going to
like
know
that's
the
what I was
story
thinking.
because the second that I tell you that it's a woman and not a man, I bet it's going to click.
Like the woman's the killer?
Yeah. Don't look at me like that. You have
Okay.
heard this story. Okay. Let's get into this because apparently I've stumped Chansey and I don't think
Let's
I
do it.
have. We are going to start our story on April 7th, 1985. And this is the day that Stacey Castor would marry her first husband, Michael Wallace. And she was 17 at the time. So she's really young when she first gets married. And
Red flags all around.
yeah, I mean, it was, but honestly, everybody who like knew her and them said that they seemed to really be in love, and like they had dated for like 3 years before this. So like she had met him when she was 14,
Okay.
and they had dated, and then had gotten married when she was 17, and she was like infatuated with him, which you are as a 17-year-old
Yeah, I
when you've
mean,
been dating somebody. I'm pretty sure I couldn't ever find his age at this time, but I'm pretty sure he was a couple years older than her. So I can imagine like an older boy dating you, you're going to get infatuated with him. And that's what it appeared to be for everybody else. Like she was in love, they were in love. The wedding was fun. They just were, all around great. But Michael Wallace, the man she married, he was known for being the life of the party. And pretty soon into their marriage, this kind of became a bigger issue because he ended up having a really bad habit with alcohol. It kind of consumed him. So his like abuse of alcohol created a pretty heavy strain in their marriage, but despite this, they did end up having their first child in 1988. So that's 3 years into their marriage. So she would have been really young still when they had their first kid. And they named her Ashley. And then just a few years after that, they had a second daughter, Bree. And they kind of developed kind of weird family relationships because, like, Stacey claimed that Michael had like a weird favoritism toward Bree. Like, didn't really care for Ashley as much, but like really had a strong bond with Bree. And so to make up for this, Stacey claims that she like latched onto Ashley and tried to like be best friends with Ashley. And so their family kind of like had a weird dynamic to begin with. It was kind of like this weird, despite these strong like relationships that were happening between like daughter and father and daughter and mother, their marriage really started to fall apart. And I found only on one source, so I don't know if there's any credibility to this, but some believe that they were both having affairs at this point too. So
That
I
would
don't know how
definitely
much truth there is, but even if they weren't happy at this point.
yeah.
And so in 1999, Michael began to feel like sick frequently, and he went to see a doctor, and the doctor told him that he might be having some inner ear problems. And his family at this time, they recall seeing him pretty unsteady. He was coughing, he was swollen, but nothing that was like life threatening, right? Like an inner ear problem isn't going to kill you. So
Yeah.
before he could seek any further medical attention, though, he was found lying dead on their family couch just weeks after his doctor's visit,
Dang.
which is
He
pretty
died of inner
intense.
ear problems. Who knew?
Actually, when like they didn't do a full autopsy on him, but doctors believed that he had suffered from a heart attack and just kind of laid it to rest and moved on.
How old was he?
He was not very old. I don't remember seeing the age when he died. This is 1999. They got married pretty young in 1985. I would guess he's like late 30s, early 40s at this point.
Okay. All right. So not
So,
usually the typical heart attack
no, he's not
candidate.
like old enough that he's probably closer to late 30s, to be honest. I don't know. Because they were young. So, yeah, not the typical age where it's like you're going to expect him to like just drop dead on the couch one night from a heart attack. Stacey Castor did collect $55,000 in life insurance money from his death, which at this point didn't raise any red flags. Her husband had just died of a heart attack. Nothing crazy. But what is kind of weird is that only 2 years later, in 2001, Stacey meets her second husband, David Castor. And David ran his own air conditioning company, and she was actually his office manager. A little office romance.
Woohoo.
Dated for 2 years, and then they were married in 2003. So this is like 4 years after her husband died. But she started dating only 2 years later, which I guess I don't know if that's quick or not. It seems quick to me when you've had like 2 kids with somebody and been married for like a decent amount of time. I don't know.
I
But
also think it depends. Like, it seems like they were on the verge of not being together anymore, anyways. Like, it sucks that he
so,
died, and she probably had, like, still some love for him.
but
But
maybe not in love with
maybe,
him. Yeah,
yeah. Like, it seems like they were
that makes
probably going
sense.
to get divorced or something, so she would have been out there, anyways. I
True.
don't know. That seems
Yeah.
callous, probably, to say it like that.
No, but it's probably
But,
true, right? I mean, anyway. Yeah,
yeah.
so she marries her second husband, David Castor, in 2003. Stacey described her second husband as being very conscientious, very work driven, and very into outdoors. And she said that he was a support and a strength to her at this time. And so when they married, David also had a grown son, didn't live in the house anymore, and it was David. His name was also David, so David Jr. And from what I could find, their marriage was just, your run of the mill marriage. Pretty happy. However, Stacey's daughters weren't very happy about David as their dad. That's because Stacey said that it's because he required them to do a lot, and it was like just because he's their dad, kind of thing. So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And any stepchild is going to be like,
yeah, there's
screw
going to be
that.
some
No thanks.
pushback there.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of, turmoil, but not anything crazy. Just your typical blending of families, issues happening. Not long into their marriage, on August 22nd, 2003, though, there would be a sudden and abrupt change in their family. On this day, August 22nd, 2003, the sheriff's office got a 911 call from Stacey, telling them that she was worried for the well-being of her husband David because he had locked himself in their bedroom with a bottle of Southern Comfort following an argument, and that she had not seen or heard from him for the past day, and he had not shown up for work.
This is in her house.
Yes.
And Southern Comfort is alcoholic, I'm assuming.
Yes, I would assume. That's what it seemed like. I have never heard of it before, but yes.
Me neither.
I'm going to assume that it wasn't like a bottle of apple juice.
Yeah, no.
So,
I mean, Southern Comfort makes me think of like apple cider or something, but I'm sure
and
that's
maybe
not
it
what it
is.
was.
Maybe it is some kind of a.
You
I
know
probably should
what?
have
We
Googled
should look it
but
up.
yeah. Okay.
I'm gonna look it up
Southern
right now.
Comfort. What is this?
Southern Comfort drink.
The smooth drinking whiskey created by M.W.
Yep, it's
Heron.
a whiskey brand.
Whiskey.
There you have it. Not apple cider.
As non-drinkers, we wouldn't know that, but now I'm educated. I know.
I know things now.
So he disappeared into his room with a bottle of whiskey. She had also told a friend that she had assumed he was sleeping it off because she had heard him sleeping inside. She didn't say that on her 911 call, but a friend recalled her saying that to her. So police did go and do a wellness check, and they ended up having to knock down their bedroom door because David wouldn't answer. And they found David Castor dead on his bed in what they initially thought was a suicide. Police found 2 glasses on his nightstand, and one of them was later identified as having antifreeze in it, which is a weird thing to have on a glass on your nightstand. It's a little weird.
Who does that?
What a weird way to kill yourself. How unpleasant.
Yeah. How drawn out and super unnecessary.
I don't know why you would torture yourself to death. Anyway, underneath the bed, they found the bed of antifreeze with its top off, and it kind of spilled on the carpet a little bit. And upon searching the kitchen, they also found a turkey baster that later would also be identified as having antifreeze in it, but it had been disposed of in the trash can down in the kitchen. And that's really what raised the alarm to them. I mean, the antifreeze in general would make me a little, what's happening? But when they found that there was a turkey baster filled with it in the downstairs kitchen garbage, they were like, something's not adding up here.
Why? Maybe I don't understand what antifreeze is. Why would you need a turkey baster? Couldn't you just pour it?
Yeah, well, what they thought was, because at this point they began to think that Stacey had poisoned her husband. What they believe the turkey baster was used for is that once he became so weak that he couldn't drink any more poison, she was feeding it to him through the turkey baster.
Horrified by that image. That is super, super horrible.
Also, I never found any details as to where her 2 daughters were this night, but I sure hope they were off at a friend's house or doing something else and that they weren't in their bedrooms, because I was like that is horrifying. That's
so I don't have words. I'm speechless. Why would you do that to someone?
So they also found, when they took the glasses from the house to examine them, and they found Stacey's fingerprints on the antifreeze glass. And they also found David's DNA on the tip of the turkey baster, which is how they came to believe that it had been in his mouth.
Okay.
So they felt like they had some pretty decent evidence to go off of, but obviously not anything that could 100% put her away. They had no proof that Like, she may have had the antifreeze, but they didn't have enough proof that they felt like they could 100% lock her up for killing David. So they decided they were going to do some surveillance of the Castor's house and of the graves. And I say graves because she requested that both David and Michael be buried right next to each other. So if they're going to survey one grave, they were going to survey both graves. I'm like, I guess I see why you do that, right? Then you're going to go visit the gravesite of both your husbands, I guess. But
Maybe.
also, I don't know.
I
I
mean,
still think it's weird. Like, have them in the same cemetery. I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't bury two husbands right next to each other.
side by
Seems a
side.
little weird.
It's like you're setting up some sort of weird afterlife fantasy. I'm not down
Yeah.
with that.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So, besides the point, she never showed up to the grave sites. There seemed to be no mourning. Like, after they laid David in the ground, she just went on her merry way. Basically unaffected, it seemed like. And you can't judge this all the way. Like, I've had, like, close family members pass away, and I feel no connection to their gravesite, really. And so it's not, like, to me, like, completely telling.
Yeah,
Everybody
it can't be
mourns in their own way.
yeah, it can't be like an indicator of guilt
But
necessarily.
it is weird that within, like, even days following his death, she's not visiting his gravesite.
Yeah.
It's a little
Yeah,
weird.
that's weird.
So they put surveillance on the gravesite, and then they were also tapping Stacey's phones at this point. And the other part of this whole thing that raised alarm bells was that David's inheritance, none of it was left to his son. It was all left to Stacey and her two daughters.
So David Jr. was just left in the wind.
Yeah. Which, like, he wasn't close with his two daughters, his stepdaughters, and so you wouldn't think that they would get hardly anything. And also you'd think that his son would definitely get something
because that's his
on his
actual
will.
biological son.
Yeah. So yet another alarm bell. The police are like, this is weird. It was at this point that they also realized that Castor's first husband had had a strange, untimely death. And they thought, that's interesting. They both just suddenly died. And so they kind of asked Stacey about it and kind of asked her about how, like, her husband's health had been and whatever, because if he's going to, like, drop dead of a heart attack, there's going to be other things that he's doing that are unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
And she, like, tells them, yes, he was always terribly sick. There was a lot of things going wrong with him. But then they looked into his medical records and found that, like, the only thing that had ever happened was that he had a hernia. That was it.
Other than that, a totally healthy man
Like,
who thought
healthy
he
as a
was having
horse.
inner ear problems.
Yeah. Never had anything else happen to him. And so they're like, I don't think she's telling the truth because he seemed fine his whole life. So.
Yeah. And why would she lie?
Yeah.
That's not great.
Yeah. Things are not looking up for Stacey at this point. So they have some pretty obvious suspicions that Stacey might have killed her first husband as well as her second husband. And so on September 5th of 2007, they exhumed Michael Wallace's body, her first husband. And the examiner found that Wallace, in his words, was loaded with crystals, which apparently is, like, left in the organs due to antifreeze.
I actually had heard that before. I forgot until you said it, but I've heard that.
Yeah. It's pretty telling that he didn't die of a heart attack.
It's pretty easy to tell that that's not natural. Like, the body doesn't just, like, have crystals in it. That's just not a thing that it does.
Exactly. And I don't, like, from what it seems like, I didn't do any, like, heavy research on this, but it seems like there isn't very many things that have the same effect on the body. Like, it seems pretty definitive that when you see that, that's caused by antifreeze or something similar.
Yeah.
So that couldn't have been anything else. It was pretty definitive. So just days after this, they call on Stacey for questioning, obviously, and the detective on the case is Detective Spinelli, which I was like, this sounds like spaghetti, and I love that.
Paschetti.
Yep. Detective Spinelli led the questioning, and at one point he like asked her if she remembered, because apparently she had fed them this lie earlier that she had poured some cranberry juice for him, like to cover for the fingerprints that were on the glass. And so he starts to question her about the cranberry juice, and she responds to him, and she literally says, "Well, when I poured the antifreeze, I mean the cranberry juice."
So she just like confesses.
She literally confesses basically to the detective right there that she poured
My
antifreeze.
goodness.
But really interesting to note, because this comes back later in the investigation, is that she doesn't call it antifreeze. She calls it anti-free. Like, she doesn't pronounce the last sound of the word.
Like she thought her whole life people were saying anti-free, not antifreeze.
Yeah.
And so she says anti-free.
She says anti-free. And I only bring that up because of some evidence that will pop up later. But anyway, so she basically incriminates herself. So just days after they had confirmed that Michael had died of antifreeze, two investigators, they show up at Ashley's door, and it's her first day of college, and they tell her that her father had died of unnatural causes, that he had been poisoned by antifreeze. And Ashley, once they leave, is obviously distraught and calls her mother. And remember that at this point they have wiretapped Stacey's phone, so they hear this whole conversation. They hear Stacey questioning her daughter about the conversation that she had had with the detectives, and like a little too intensely. Like, she seemed to kind of latch on to like specifically what did they say kind of stuff.
Trying to figure out if they're onto her or not.
Exactly. If she's like the prime suspect. But after then, Stacey suggests that her and Ashley, they should go out and have a drink together because it's been a really hard day. And so
Is she gonna poison her daughter? Okay, sorry. Go on. Tell your
I'm like,
story.
yeah, let me just keep talking. We will see. Ashley says that they have the drink at their house, and that her mom mixes the drink for her. She becomes really lethargic, and then eventually she passes out and winds up in her bedroom. She doesn't remember too much. But Ashley wakes up the next morning with a hangover and goes to school anyway, but then comes back later that day to Stacey's house. And Stacey offers again to get drunk with Ashley to celebrate her 21st birthday early. I don't know how early, but it wasn't actually her birthday yet. She offers to get drunk again. Let's just get drunk again. You know? Let's do it. It's your birthday.
No.
I don't know when it's her birthday, but it wasn't that day. So Ashley, she's like, sure, why not?
Because
I'm
last
down
time
to
that
clown.
happened, you literally were sick.
Well, but also you have to think about this. Like, Ashley is obviously not even 21 at this point. She probably hasn't had that much alcohol in her life, and she probably just thinks she experienced a hangover. She's a lightweight at this point. One drink could have done her in. I don't know.
Yeah, but she also knows that her dad was killed via antifreeze.
Yeah, but it appears at this point that Ashley has, like, not thought that it could be her mother.
I guess you wouldn't assume.
Like, why would you suspect your own mother? Especially when, like, remember, Ashley's the one that, like, Stacey has befriended really hardcore. So
yeah,
Ashley
so it's like,
and Stacey are
she's
tight.
really close with
She's
her.
not going to think that her mom would have killed her dad and her stepfather. So
I get that, I guess.
They have drinks again. Once again, Stacey makes Ashley a drink. Ashley remembers that the drink didn't taste very good at all. So her mom gave her a straw and said, just put it down the back of your throat. Just get it down there. And Ashley drank the drink. I'm like,
what is happening?
What? Anyway,
oh
so she felt really tired, a little bit off after her drink, and she went to lay down. And that's how her night ended. She kind of was like sleeping off this terrible tasting drink that her mother had given her. The next morning, Ashley's sister Bree found her lying there barely breathing. And Bree tells her mom that, like, she's not okay. And so Stacey calls 911. And Stacey tells dispatch that Ashley had had quite a few drinks and a few doses of medication the night before, which it's really interesting that she had mentioned medication since Ashley had taken no medication.
Yeah, I was like, what, where, when? When
But
did
they
she
would
have
find
medication?
that her drink that she had drinking was spiked with drugs. Like
Not
just a bunch of
antifreeze.
pills she had just dumped
She
in
just
there.
crushed him up.
Yeah.
And just
And
been like,
basically tried to OD her daughter.
because I was wondering about that, because I was like, antifreeze actually tastes sweet. It doesn't taste bad. That's why people don't know that they're being poisoned with it. It's because it
No, but
doesn't
if you had
taste
a
like
freak
anything
ton
bad.
of like whatever pill she decided to
Yeah.
crush up, you're gonna taste that.
Yep. Yep, for sure. That makes sense.
So anyway, Bree also finds the 750 word typewritten letter that appears to be a suicide note written by Ashley. And it's got Ashley's typed signature at the bottom. And in this letter, lo and behold, she confesses to killing her father and stepfather and said that she's now going to take her own life. The DA said that when she was on this 911 call, she was very adamant about making sure that the receiver on the other end knew that there was a suicide note found with the body. Not that Ashley was dead yet, but anyway, but with Ashley, that there was a suicide note. And apparently she like mentioned that over and over and over again. Like a little too adamant that this is a suicide. And so Ashley arrived at the hospital and they said that if she had gotten there any later, like she was 15 minutes away from dying. But they actually ended up being able to save Ashley. And they found that the doctor said that she had a cornucopia of drugs in her system.
Wow.
So
wow.
Stacey had
Just
gone
lots
hard.
of stuff in there.
She had just like put it all in there, thought it would do the trick, and it would have. So luckily we have Bree to thank for like being a good sister and being like, it's really weird that my sister's still passed out on the couch. Something's not right. She saved her sister's life that day.
Good job, Bree.
So, upon gaining consciousness, Ashley was asked about her suicide note, and it was very obvious that she had no clue what they were talking about. She was like,
what
excuse
suicide
me?
note? I don't know what you're talking about.
And the detectives were like, the suicide note where you told us that you murdered your father and stepfather with antifreeze? And she was like, yeah, no.
That never happened.
That didn't happen. I have no clue what you're talking
That's
about.
not a thing.
I had drinks with my mom and then I woke up here. I don't know. So Stacey was arrested the same day that Ashley was taken to the hospital. That was enough. They felt like they had enough evidence at this point to take her away, put her behind bars. And so December of 2007, Stacey ended up being indicted on one count of second-degree murder, one count of second-degree attempted murder, and a plot to present a forged will. So she's a lot going for her. So a year into their preparation for trial, the judge also ruled that the death of Michael Wallace could be used as evidence against her, which is interesting because she wasn't being indicted on the murder of her first husband. It was just her second. And I couldn't find a reason for this. I don't know what the reason was, but apparently she wasn't going to be charged with his murder. I don't know if they didn't have enough evidence. Probably that.
They probably didn't. Because it wasn't investigated at the time and it had been like, 5, 6, 7 something years.
Right. But they are allowed to use it in the trial, which is kind of interesting because you don't hear that very often. Usually other like crimes or deaths aren't allowed to be used as evidence. But in this case, it was. So the following year, January of 2009, is when Stacey finally faces trial. And the prosecutors, they allege that Castor had killed both of her husbands, driven with the intent of gaining finances, that she was after their life insurance. They pointed out that she had gotten money after the death of her first husband, and that the will seemed to have been tampered with so that only her and her daughters got the money from her second husband. They also presented evidence and proof that both David and Michael had both been poisoned by antifreeze. They also pulled up evidence of drafts that they had found that were written on Stacey's computer of the suicide note that Ashley had supposedly written. And there were timestamps on these documents, which were during the hours that Ashley had gone back to school. And there was no way that she could have written the note. So they were able to basically pin everything that happened. The attempted murder, the murder of David, and they had pretty solid evidence. They also took note that in this suicide note, antifreeze had actually been spelled anti-free.
Which is
they were like, that's a really stupid mistake to make 2 times in this investigation. So that in and of itself was pretty damning
proof
evidence.
that it wasn't her daughter, because her daughter probably knew how to say the word antifreeze.
Yeah. So Ashley testified against her mother at the trial, and Stacey's mother testified, but for her, like, not against her.
In her defense?
She said that she believes that her daughter could never kill one man, let alone 2, and that she loved both of her husbands, and like until the end, her mother believed that she was not guilty.
I'm not trying to be this person, but when your only character defense is your mother, as a jury member, I would write that off so fast. I'd be like, that's complete BS. Like, the only person standing up in defense of this woman is the person that gave birth to her. That doesn't work for me.
No, it's not.
Don't believe it.
It's not great. So the trial ends, and on February 5th, 2009, Stacey is found guilty of second-degree murder of David Castor and the attempted second-degree murder of Ashley Wallace. She got 2 sentences of 25 years to life, and then on top of that, she got a year and a third for the forging of David's will. And there was a whole thing with the will where they had to go back and basically, eventually David Jr. did end up getting it fixed so that he inherited the money and everything from his father. But
that's good.
Yeah. So that part is good. But yeah, Stacey was sentenced to essentially 22 life sentences because she was old enough at this point that she was like, she wasn't going to live very much longer outside of a prison after 25 years. So both Bree and Ashley, they never spoke to their mother again. And Ashley actually found a quote from her, and it's really sad. She said, "I never knew what hate was until now. Even though I do hate her, I still love her at the same time. That bothers me. It's so confusing. How can you hate someone and love them at the same time? I just wish that she would say sorry for everything she did, including all the lies. As horrible as it makes me feel, this is goodbye, Mom. As hard as you tried, I survived, and I will survive because now I'm surrounded by people that love me. I'm going to do good things in this world despite making me, in every sense of the word, an orphan." So that's kind of what she had to say to her mom, which is really sad. It is hard. Like, that's I can imagine, like, Stacey was her best friend. Her mom was her best friend. And then to have your mom literally try to kill you and to have killed your dad and your stepdad, that's a lot.
And try to blame you for, like, their deaths when you were responsible. Like, I feel like that's the betrayal that would cut me the deepest. Like, go ahead, try to kill me. But, and like,
then pin this on me.
Try and pin this on me? Like, no, thank you. Like,
no,
that's it.
Unthinkable. And so, I would imagine that, there would be hate, but then you'd also just have this well of all these awesome memories with your mom. And
that would be hard to, like, try and come to terms with both of those different things in your head.
And it's just sad that, like, that her mom would have used, like, it against her. But it's also crazy because, like, she's trying to pin this on Ashley. And when Ashley's dad died, so Stacey's first husband, Ashley was only 12 years old. You're telling me that a 12-year-old was going to antifreeze her father to death? That's
I'm just gonna
insane.
say I've been 12 years old. I didn't
I don't
know
know
what
what antifreeze
antifreeze
is.
was as a 12-year-old.
Exactly.
Just gonna
Yeah.
put that out there. Also, this leads us to a point where I just have to say this, but like I'm surprised at how stupid Stacey is.
Yeah.
Like I'm surprised she got away with that first murder because she didn't try that hard to cover it up. So, I
Well,
guess
it's
it's
hard
just an
because
interesting.
honestly, I think if there's no obvious signs of foul play and it's just like a normal person, I think a lot of the time they chalk it up to like natural causes.
Well,
Because
yeah,
why
I mean
wouldn't they?
they did that in the Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow case with Chad Daybell's wife that he
Yeah,
killed.
like why would they think anything else?
Like they
She's
didn't,
just your
yeah,
average Joe.
she just died in her sleep one night and they just took it at face value until other things started happening. But it's
Well, and
just
it's also
like,
hard
dang.
because in those cases where it's like a family member killing them, like that, the family member is the one that would ask for an autopsy,
Exactly.
and then they don't, obviously. So they just go with it, which is also like a red flag. Yeah,
Yeah, if I
like
feel like if the person that like they die in a random way that's like totally not typical for their age or whatever, like you'd think that the family would ask for an autopsy to figure out what happened. Like I'd want to
yes,
know.
I would want to know for sure.
And if they don't do that, like it makes me feel like autopsies should just be standard practice, but that doesn't work because there's not enough people to perform autopsies to make that happen. I just like there should be somebody out there like
Just
that does
checking, just in
that for
case.
people just in case. Just trying to
Yeah,
make sure.
yeah, exactly. I agree with that.
But
I think it should just be common practice, but I also get why it's not. So,
yeah,
yep.
no. I just think it's so interesting. Like I was thinking about this. She was convicted on second degree murder charges. And I'm so
Mm-hmm.
confused about that. Like why I'm confused about why
Why?
it wasn't first degree. Because she
Yeah,
obviously planned to kill these people. This wasn't like a crime of passion. Poisoning is the opposite of a crime of passion. She like
yeah.
intended to murder people. So I'm like I don't understand why it wouldn't be first degree murder to be honest because I feel like it was premeditated. She like made a plan just cuz she wanted money. So I
Yeah.
just am confused, but
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like, but maybe, I mean, this seems more premeditated than like somebody getting a gun,
well yeah,
going and killing someone. You
and
know what
like
I mean?
shooting
Like
people.
this is more
Yeah, because like
premeditated.
the
She had to
gun can
find the
almost be
right
seen.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and she had to buy antifreeze. Like I don't know. Like I guess some people like I don't have antifreeze just sitting around my house. Some people do.
But
But
maybe
like
like that's why though. Maybe like because they couldn't, maybe the antifreeze was already in their house and so they
so they
couldn't pin
couldn't.
her saying like she was
Yeah, that makes
planning to do
sense.
it. Maybe it was
That
just
makes
always
sense.
there, and so when she did it, they were like, "Oh, it's just they can't like say that she
I just feel like
actually
with the
planned
will
it."
tampering and all of that stuff like
That would be enough to get it first
that's
degree.
premeditated to me. That's first degree murder. And like she didn't just in like one random cold-hearted moment just like shoot him in the face. She like throughout the night fed him antifreeze
Yeah,
to kill
with
him
a turkey
with a
baster
turkey baster.
because he couldn't
Like
like
that's
feed
because he couldn't
himself it
swallow it
anymore.
because he was so sick. So
Yeah,
like to me that's not second degree murder. That's first
no,
degree murder. That's
no, and that
premeditated,
is that
planned
is a good
out.
point.
Anyways, so that was an interesting little tidbit to
Yeah,
me. I was like, huh, I thought that would be first degree murder charges for sure. Obviously, I
the
don't know anything about the law, but
yeah, I don't know enough about it either to know why in this particular case it would have gotten ruled that way, but it is interesting.
yeah.
Last thing to note is that Stacey was actually found dead in her cell on June 11th of 2016, which means she would have only been in there for 7 years.
Dang.
And what's really crazy about this is that it was later confirmed that she died of a heart attack.
Like actually?
Like actually, there's no evidence of suicide or foul play. It's like some weird karma.
Cosmic like her husband was like, you poisoned me, and yeah, you poisoned me and said it was a heart attack, and I'm gonna freaking kill you with a heart attack. That's what it feels like.
They come back from the other side and they're
Karma,
like,
I'm a ghost.
you're toast.
I'm gonna stop your heart.
Yep. So that's Stacey Castor, and if you actually, I haven't watched it, I don't know, but there's apparently a TV show called Poisoned Love, the Stacey Castor story. And if you're interested in this case, I don't know how much of that is real versus fictionalized for the TV show, but I hear that it's actually like they actually tried to make it pretty realistic and used a lot of like actual like court proceedings and stuff. So
that sounds interesting.
Yeah, if you want to know more about it, go watch that, and I'm sure you'd pick up some more details. Yep. So there you have it. Our tip of the week.
Very cool.
Don't drink stuff that you don't know what it is. Even from your mother. Don't drink stuff
especially
that you don't know.
From your mother.
Especially from your mother.
Oh my goodness. Well, y'all, stay frosty. We'll see you next week.
Catch you next week.